All right, so they should be joining us anon. So excellent. All right, we'll wait for them. Yeah.
Before you go, let's make sure that you can hear me okay. Let's hang up the phone and we'll talk.
Okay.
We'll talk over there, okay?
All right.
All right, testing 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, sounds excellent.
I'll be ready for the next admission, and then we'll be ready for the other one around 10:28.
All right, thank you so much. That's great, Mark. Thank you.
Thanks for checking in early. I appreciate it.
All right, bye. Yeah, Mark is there and no, Mark, he's there. I've got him up right now. He's so,
Where's Bear?
oh, well, I can show you. Let's see. There. There. Where are you? There. Okay. Here he is.
Hi, Bear.
He'd rather
He's looking away. Don't look at me.
He'd rather be sitting in the sun. Okay. Nobody's getting any younger.
Amen.
All right, I'm gonna just let my guys know that we are on.
It says 2 people are entering the waiting room.
Yeah, that'll be the first go round, and then at 10:25 or so, we'll have the second gang.
Who did you want first, Elizabeth?
So we're gonna do the first is gonna be two gals.
Okay, I'll just go ahead and let them in. I didn't know if it was going to be one, but I'll let them both in. Okay.
Yeah, so there's gonna be 2 gals, and then the second segment, I think it's just gonna be 1 guy. And I guess, do you have music queued up?
Yeah, Richard left some music in the system here for us to use.
There's Monica. Okay, so Monica, hi, and Susie, hi, great. So both of you, let's see, Monica, are you on mute?
No. I was. I just
okay. And Susie, you're ready to roll? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So Mark is filling in, and that's great. I wasn't sure if the station was gonna find, but there he is. So we're on, and thank you both for being so patient on this.
No
Richard,
worries.
yeah, and Monica, I don't know if you remember Richard Dugan. A couple of mornings ago, he had this massive attack, and they rushed him in for gallbladder surgery.
Oh.
So anyway, but Mark says he's doing well,
good.
So at least that's good. So so Mark is going to be doing the engineering. So we'll see how this goes. Has everybody been keeping healthy?
Trying to.
Yeah, and how are things at the library, Monica? Are all the fathers okay? And
thankfully, yes. We've been pretty strict about how many people or who gets to come in behind the walls, because we have 20 plus friars there.
Yeah.
And that has worked, I think. We've managed to really keep everybody safe and healthy. So,
Well, that's fantastic. Yeah. That then none of those guys are actually spring chickens either. So
yeah, most of them are over 60. So
yeah.
it does make a few challenges there. But, and a lot of them are, well, their calling is to work with people. So it's been very difficult to not be able to do that. So,
Well, so I guess what we'll do is I'll introduce you both, and then I'm thinking, Monica, if you maybe set the scene and tell people that haven't been there what it's like to visit, and what you offer, and what research could look like there, and what your areas are, that sort of thing. So the idea, I guess, what I was thinking is if they haven't been to the lab, what that looks like, how that feels. I mean, it's so unique, and such a gem. So
yeah.
kind of like, well, and then maybe Susie we'll maybe move to Susie, and she can talk a little bit about some of the outreach and what that looks like in the pandemic, and how people can support uh, that sort of thing. So we'll go back
Okay.
and forth for a little bit.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
So probably what I will do, Elizabeth, is explain how, there's the mission and then there are the entities inside the mission.
Yeah.
They're all, to explain the complexity a bit, which includes the archive library and the parish, and they're
Yeah.
all separate, but we're all there together.
Yeah. And
How have you been?
Huh?
How have you been?
Well, I mean, I guess, you and I are in the world of material culture. It's been so interesting because so many of my clients are so sick of their collections,
Yeah.
and they just, I mean, it's because it's overkill. So they're in the house, they're looking at their art, for example, and they get sick of it, or they're looking at their 18th century furniture and they get sick of it. And at the beginning of the pandemic, I had some of my clients like, I can't stand it anymore. I'm just going to put it on the street, and they did, they put it on the street, and then it was like, okay, so, but what's happened is the auction houses have been going crazy,
Mhm.
and they're actually booming, and the print world is booming, I think, especially because it's a reliable thing to buy online. So if it's a closed edition, and you're being offered
Mhm.
the 20th out of the 20 of the edition, well, it's probably okay to buy online. But art over about 15 or 10K
Yeah.
is just, that's hard, because people don't want to sacrifice that on an online purchase. But the world of 10K and under, that used to be dead. That's huge. And then weird things, for example, the growth of the like personal auction sites. So we've got two new entities in town that do, they link with uh, many of the auction platforms that are offered out there, and they're listing people's things, and so that's really hot. And so the market has really changed. It's so virtual now, and
Yeah.
and so because of that, certain things that are difficult to buy, original oil paintings where you've got to see the work and understand the work. I mean, that's really difficult. So, galleries are either closing, or they're, being innovative. They're having like premiere showings for 6 people only, and this sort of thing. And people are anxious to go. And so, in the gallery world, the higher end art is selling really well too. So, but not online. Online, it's prints, multiples. The book trade is huge right now. So rare books are huge But I mean, it's the the world that I was trained in, where it's that, you know, you touch it, you smell it,
Mhm.
that world. I don't know if that's going to stick around much. I think it's a different way of purchasing.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah. And so, you know, you get the back end of that, or the end I don't like, are all these people opining about stuff they don't know about, you know, because it's an open forum. So, you know, and you know, this dumb stuff like you can't really review artists' work on Yelp. I mean, you just can't. So you get a whole generation of people opining and offering opinions, and that can change the results of a whole marketplace, which is,
Right.
yeah, it's
Yeah, it's definitely a different world, this virtual element, even for us.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, you know, because we're having to connect virtually with people, and it's changing our programs. And you know, in some ways it's an opportunity, but it's, you know, a challenge as well. And so, you know, I think moving forward, we're going to be operating with a hybrid kind of model with a lot of our programs. But people still want to do in-person things. They just want to feel safe doing it.
yeah. So when you say more hybrid, are you referring to the research end or for the?
Well, we, for instance, and Susie can talk more about this when we are, you know, talk later in the show, but we're offering speaker series. So we're able to bring in speakers from far away because of Zoom that we would have trouble booking otherwise in person. And our audience is broader as well because they can just log in and participate. So in that way, it's been an opportunity, and it's also allowed us to stay connected with our supporters. The mission and the archive library collaborating on this, and helps us reach a wider audience. But people get fatigued with all the Zoom. So,
Yeah.
you know, moving forward, I think there'll be a hybrid kind of programming, or at least, you know, we'll alternate or do something in order to provide the personal connection still, but the opportunities that virtual also provides.
And it's such an interesting thing, because it's, you know, it seems to me a little bit like a cognitive dissonance, because it's an archive library, and you know, the idea is that they're, you know, treasured and massive, in some cases, books, you
Yeah.
know, and
Well, we actually have spent several of the past a few years digitizing a lot of the documents, and that was initially for safekeeping. You know, we've been threatened by fire, like a lot of Santa Barbara, on various occasions, and you can't evacuate everything, right? So, you know, God forbid we should ever burn down, we would have all this stuff in the cloud somewhere. And that was how we initially started digitizing, or why we started, was to safekeep these, you know, amazing collections, as well as the images of the paintings, the etchings, all those things
Yeah.
that we have. But that's now allowed us to actually continue to serve researchers while we were closed to in-person visits, because we could actually share what they were asking for. If they knew what they wanted and we could locate it, we could share it with them digitally, which we wouldn't have been able to do 10 years ago, you know?
Yeah.
And so that has actually allowed us to keep serving and fulfilling our mission, serving, you know, people and fulfilling our mission as an archive library.
That's fantastic. All right, so I'm going to jump onto my email for one quick minute and let the next guy know we're on.
You will be on in about 2 minutes.
Okay.
Okay, about 1 minute.
I did put my headphones in, so I want to make sure you can still hear me. We're good?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
And I have to apologize. I'm at home today, so we might get a dog.
What's the breed, Monica?
Chihuahua.
Chihuahua. So Bear is a little bit Chihuahua, a little bit Dachshund. He's laying in the sun right now.
Yeah,
That's the
mine's
Chihuahua part.
exactly. That's what mine's doing. She's sitting outside in the sun. I'm hoping that keeps her occupied.
Okay, stand by. We're getting close.
Volunteers, health providers, and partners to get COVID-19 vaccinations to continue working at its facilities in Colorado. Proof of vaccination is required by October 1st.
With more news more often, I'm Ben Hayes for AM 1290, the Santa Barbara News Press radio station.
This is
Elizabeth Stewart, and one of my favorite people in the community is joining us today, Monica Orozco, and she is the head of the Mission Archive Library. And what we're going to talk about a little bit is this gem that we have here in Santa Barbara and the interconnectedness of the mission itself, which actually I can almost see from my condo. I live in that area, and that's where we walk with the dog, and it's such a wonderful area. But what you guys may or may not know is there's this repository of tremendous art and culture and history in the mission itself, and Monica's in charge of that. So we're also joined by Susie Plott. So I want to introduce both women that are connected with the Mission Archive Library. We're going to talk a little bit about that and how I just urge you guys to support this wonderful institution. I try to scrape together some money every year because Monica years ago gave me a personal tour, and I was blown away. You know, Fremont's map. I mean, where are you going to find that? This sort of thing. But anyway, Monica is a native here of Santa Barbara. She holds a Bachelor of Arts degree in Chicano Studies from our university here. She has a master's and doctorate in history, specializing in Mexican colonial and 19th century history and religious studies. She taught in the history department at Westmont as a visiting scholar and a lecturer in the history department in the Latin American Iberian Studies program at UCSB. And she was on the board for the Mission Archive Library for a couple of years, and then she was appointed director in 2009. And it was, I think, in 2010 that I thought, wow, a new director, and I got to meet Monica. 2016, she was appointed executive director of Old Mission Santa Barbara. And it's been an interesting thing because as I walk the dog, I look up and I know that there's, 20 some friars there as well. And so I wanted to get to speak to Monica about how this whole wonderful, blessed, historic place is working these days. And to help us with that, Susie Plott is here. And I found her bio absolutely fascinating because she's a community development expert, and she's worked in the field of academia and not-for-profit. And she comes from Charlotte, North Carolina, and she's always had this dream of moving her and her dog to Santa Barbara. And lo and behold, here she is, and she's involved in fundraising, doing events for the Mission Archive Library, community relations, and marketing for the Mission. She has a master's in business administration, a bachelor's degree in Latin American and Caribbean studies from Rollins College in Florida. And she writes me that, this is a big dream of hers to actually live in this place and also, work at such a special historical and community gathering place. And indeed it is. I mean, I just want you guys to know how precious this place is. And anyway, Monica, over to you. So I guess the important thing to stress is how you've been handling, the changes in the world of academia and research there, and also juggling you know, the safety issues and the Padres, and my gosh.
Yeah.
Tell us how you've been doing, Monica.
Well, good morning, first of all.
Yeah.
And thanks for having us on. This is great to connect with you here today and with everybody out there. It's been a challenge for us, as it has been for everybody, to adjust to the circumstances of the past year and a half. And as you mentioned, we do have a community of over 20 friars. It adjusts from year to year that we need to keep safe, not to mention our staff and of course our visitors. And so as you know, we were talking all amongst us, we have a lot of people in our staff and in our world where we like to plan. And this year has taught us that planning doesn't always work. So we've had to adjust, and we've had to embrace the times and kind of let go of how we've always done things and look for new and innovative ways to do our programs, to connect with people, to serve those we are committed to serve in a variety of ways. So, you know, the mission in the archive library, well, the mission is kind of home camp. You know, it's 15 acres. It has its own museum, its gift shop, its cemetery. And on that 15 acres are a couple of other nonprofits. One is the Santa Barbara Mission Archive Library, which is also a Franciscan enterprise or nonprofit. And there's also St. Barbara Parish, which is under the Archdiocese of LA. And they are a separate nonprofit as well. So it gets confusing for folks, but we are all part of the Franciscan community, and we all try to work together. So the archive library and the mission collaborated, for instance, on offering virtual programs, speaker series on different topics that we thought or heard from our supporters that were of interest to them or that were in tune with the time. So we offered last fall a series on the history of race in California. And this spring, we just finished a series called A Deeper Dive into the Mission Period and Its Legacy. And embracing technology, embracing Zoom allowed us to bring in speakers and allowed audience members from a wide area to connect. And so we've had to really be innovative about that. And I think we've really gotten a good response from our supporters, and we're able to connect and stay connected and continue to serve our community.
Well, you know, you were saying before we went on the air something I thought was really interesting, that one kind of tragedy actually opened a door.
Yeah.
So when we had our fires and mudslides, you decided, oh, this is the time, and you started to digitalize the collection.
Yeah.
And that proved to be fortuitous, because now when you've got researchers that are interested in using the archive, well, it's available.
Exactly.
So, you know, I guess what I'm interested to hear is, you know, how many volumes do you hold, and then how many volumes have you digitalized, Monica?
Yeah, I wish I had a concrete number for you.
Right.
We continue to do it. We have thousands upon thousands of pages of documents. We have a reference library that's over 12,000 titles, and we have a rare book collection that's over 4,000 titles, not to mention the art, the photo collection. You know, the Mission Archive Library has a pretty vast and diverse collection. And as you mentioned, most people don't know about it.
Yeah.
And so that's also been a challenge, which, you know, Susie has been helping us with, is to get the word out there about what the mission does and has to offer, about what the archive library has to offer and what it does, and how we can work together to really promote each other.
So we have to go to quick break, but just to reintroduce, and we'll hear from Susie when we get back from the break. Just a treasure we're talking about today, the Mission Archive Library Directorship of Monica Orozco. And, you know, I think I first saw Monica, she did a lecture at UCSB that I attended, and then I heard that she was going to be director of the Mission Archive Library, and she was kind enough to give me a personal tour right after she was appointed. And I'll never forget that day, Monica. I'll never forget the smell going into that kind of safe area there.
Yeah.
Where, you opened up the Fremont
The
map,
map.
and I was just like, oh my, this is in my backyard,
Right.
and it was a golden day in my life, I think. And I think it's just so urge people to take a look at when they pass the mission, look up, because there's a treasure inside. Obviously, there's 20 other treasures inside. But anyway, so let's go to quick break. We get back. Susie's going to tell us she's going to tell us about Santa Barbara and her experience and what she's planning for the Mission Archive. And yeah, don't turn that down. Back with Susie and Monica in 1 second.
Okay, we're clear.
Okay. Are you ready? Okay, so you're going to be on like at 10:30 or so. So we got another 5 minutes or so, but I wanted to make sure we had a little bit of a tragedy. Our producer director was taken ill, and he's in the hospital. So even though we're going to have an engineer for us today, but yeah, so we do. So we're ready for you. Maybe five minutes or so, and then you're going to be in the waiting room for a while, but you'll hear the previous interview, and then we'll introduce you around 10:30 or so. Yeah, why don't you do your 5, 8 minutes, something like that, and then and yeah, and if you have time, over a bio. So if you don't, that's okay. I'll ask you about your life. Don't worry about it.
Back in 10 seconds. Stand by.
Fighters with the critical equipment they need to
Very
protect our
good.
neighborhood. That's musicforrelief.org/fire. Thanks.
You can. You're better on the computer, but yeah. Okay. Phone will have to
All righty. 3, 2, 1. You're live.
Welcome back. It's Elizabeth Stewart, and I'm talking with Monica Orozco of the Mission Archive Library. She's Executive Director of Old Mission Santa Barbara, and Susie Plott, who is the Community Development Expert that we've recently welcomed into our community. And Susie's loves working and being here, and she's living in Santa Barbara with her dog. And Susie, how did that happen?
Yeah, I had been here on vacation and absolutely fell in love with Santa Barbara, which who can blame me?
Yeah.
I actually went to the mission on my vacation and was like, this is such a wonderful place. And I moved here a little over 3 years ago, and I just absolutely love being here, and was very fortunate to get a job, working at one of the places that made me fall in love with the city.
Definitely. And so you're here from Charlotte, North Carolina. I was mentioning to you in an email, my son was at school at Duke and had a little farmette in Durham, and he now lives in California. And what he misses is the food.
Yes, people ask me that all the time. My things I miss are my 3 F's: food, family, and friends. But luckily I get to go visit and hit all 3 of those when I'm back home. But half my family went to Duke, so I can understand. So that's great.
Yeah, what I'm talking about is the food in North Carolina is incredible. I mean, it's different than any place else in this country as far as I'm concerned, and so I sympathize with you, Susie. And the grits and this, I mean, it's a whole different world, but yeah. So,
Good old
okay.
Southern food.
Yeah, Southern food. I don't understand why people, I mean, I'm looking at you. Why isn't everybody 400 pounds that lives there? I mean, this is the issue. So what's going on with your job at the mission? What do you hope to bring? What strengths do you see that you can emphasize?
Yeah, of course. So as Monica mentioned, we had to get very creative over the last year. So the mission itself was closed to the public from March 2020 until March 2021. And during that year, we did have an estimated loss of $1.5 million. Most people don't realize how dependent we are on tourism and our visitors. And so it's our tour income, our gift shop that really helps run the 15 acres that Monica referenced and the home to those 20 friars that you referenced as well. The archive library has also been closed for that year. They just announced that we are officially going to reopen to researchers on August 4th, which is exciting. So next week. And they're also really dependent on those memberships. It's donations, memberships, and grants that really help the archive go forward. So we've really had to turn to the community during this time.
Yeah.
And so we mentioned really increasing our digital engagement with those speaker series. All of those speaker series are actually recorded and they're on our website. We have an OMSB virtual page where people can actually go and check out all of those different speaker presentations that Monica referenced. So we hope people check those out. And then back in September 24th, 2020, speaking of taking advantage of a bad situation, we decided to launch a capital campaign for $4 million over 3 years with an initial goal of raising that $1.5 million that we lost being closed during the pandemic. And I am very excited to say that we have reached that first year goal and we've raised that 1.5. We're actually a little bit over that as of today, which is very exciting. So we are so grateful to the community for helping us reach our goal and stepping up to support the mission. And as we move forward, we have another 2 million to raise and 2.5 million to raise that will be for capital campaign projects. And a lot of those support the different entities, such as the Santa Barbara Mission Archive Library. So one of the projects we're currently fundraising for is a new HVAC system to keep all of the art and the documents that you were just referencing safe. And so that's one of our capital projects that will support both the mission and the archive library in the long run. So we have a lot of exciting things. We are reopened for tours. We have memberships both for the mission as well as the archive library and events that we're going to start happening. So very exciting.
So if people said you memberships for the mission archive library, but you also have membership for the mission. Cool. And how does that differ from being a parishioner?
Yeah, that's a great question. So as Monica had mentioned, we do have the different entities that live within the mission. And so parishioners belong to the parish, which is under the Archdiocese. And then you also have the archive library that's a separate nonprofit for researchers who can become members to go research. And then our third is just the overall mission. So it's called our Friends of the Mission membership program. People get free access to tours for the year, so they can come with their family. If you have a lot of family who visit, it's a great thing. So you can bring in that, you have guest passes, you get a discount in our gift shop, you get access to different speaker series that we've talked about in different membership events. And we are our own separate nonprofit, separate from the parish and the archive as a historical landmark here in Santa Barbara that most people don't realize. The mission itself does not receive funding from the state, federal, or the Catholic Church, governments or the church.
Yeah, that's something that surprised me. We're
Yeah.
talking with Monica years ago, that the Catholic Church, the Franciscan order, that you're not supported by them.
We're supported by the Franciscan order, but not by the larger, umbrella Catholic Church. So for instance, the Archdiocese and the parish have their separate budgets and finances. And so offering that goes to the parish goes to cover their expenses. They have their staff, they have rent to pay. They do pay rent. It's not market rate, but they do pay to use the church. It's an unusual circumstance because it's usually a parish owns its own facility. In this case, it's owned by the friars, but but it's a whole separate nonprofit. So, the friars do support us and we support them. So, the leadership in Oakland supported.
I
supporting
see.
us, and we
I
support them.
never knew that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know, and
so-
that's part of our challenge, right? Is to communicate all this. So we often get people who say, "Well, I've given my offering or donated to the parish," and we're like, "Great, glad you do that, but also consider the mission because we're separate."
Okay, so that's an important distinction. So, dear listener, if you're a parishioner, I am, you had to be outside for a while there
Yeah,
if you wanted to go to mass. So the offering that you're giving or the donation you're giving to the church does support church in a significant way, but it's not necessarily supporting the mission archive library or the infrastructure, right, Monica?
Right.
Do I have that right?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And then Susie, those are the nuts and bolts of the business model, but that's not very sexy. So, how do you communicate? You know what I'm saying? That's the need, but so how do you educate people along the lines of that?
Yeah, of course. I think we are very lucky that the mission is not a hard sell in this community. Most people have
That's right,
they have a love for the mission, whether or not they went there in fourth grade, in school growing up, and they have that memory, or they go and spend their Saturdays or Sundays with their families picnicking in the Rose Garden. So, people have a love for the mission. And so I think it's communicating those nuts and bolts, but connecting it to the heart. It's you have this connection. We're not a hard sell. We are very fortunate to be a beloved, community gathering space in Santa Barbara. And so connecting it to that is important. And, it really brings it home.
So I just want to give a shout out to the folks that kind of are listening that could open their wallet. If you could see what I saw living so close to the mission, that the Rose Garden and the area in front was like a safe haven for everybody. That garden was packed, and it was packed safely, but it was a center. When you talk about community centers, a community gathering place, it seemed that people gravitated in a really significant, almost, I don't know, spiritual, unconscious way. Our whole neighborhood here on the east side ended up in the Rose Garden consistently, almost every evening. Either you were walking your dog or you were bringing out your guitar. All of these ad hoc concerts that erupted. I saw proposals being made. It was quite, so, what you're doing when you're supporting this organization, Old Mission, Santa Barbara Mission Archive Library, what you're doing, and, I'm really partial to the Mission Archive Library. I just think if you haven't been, this is, get in touch with Monica and see if you can see what's there. It'll blow you away, and it'll give you this uplift, really an uplift when you see what Monica's curated over the years and what the archive holds. It's like nothing else in California. It really isn't. So it's a very important, by the way, Susie, so if people are listening and they're thinking, I want to find out more, I want to give a few pennies in this direction, tell us how.
Yeah, of course. So please visit our website. We do have information on the website about the mission, our capital campaign that I mentioned, as well as links to the Santa Barbara Mission Archive Library and the parish. So our website is www.santabarbaramission.org. And so check it out there or follow us on social media. We have information. Our handle on Facebook and Instagram is both Old Mission SB. So we look forward to having you engaged.
Yeah, so there's a lot of different things happening. There's something that's happening very soon. Monica, tell us really quickly what that is.
Well, we have already Drinks at Dusk coming up in a couple of weeks. It's sold out. It's probably the only one we're going to have this summer because of the circumstances. And then in October, we're going to have a gala to help support this this Restore and Renew campaign, and that's October 16. Save the date, and tickets will go on sale fairly soon. So Susie's getting all that raring to go. And it's going to be Rancho Franciscano themed this year. So we hope to see you there. It'll be under the stars. So join us, please.
So let's go to quick break. And will you hang with us, both of us, Susie and Monica? Okay, hang with us. And then we get back from the break. I hope to introduce another guest, perhaps. So that's why I'm asking you to hang with us. So let's go to quick break, and we get back from the break. We'll see what happens, shall we?
Okay, sure.
Don't turn that down.
Okay, we're clear. Stand by.
Now, do you have the guy in the waiting room?
I just admitted him. Let's see what happens.
Okay.
There you go.
Hey, Rick.
It's like he's connecting.
So I don't see a camera on Rick.
No, you're not going to. He says his computer's down. He's using his phone.
And I don't see a microphone, but let's see if he's there. Are you there, Rick?
Oh, he's there. Unmute yourself, Rick.
Unmute. I'm unmuted. There we go.
Okay. All right. So give me 4 minutes to say goodbye, Rick, to the folks that we were just interviewing, and then we're gonna have you up, okay? And I got your
Okay.
bio. It just came through, so we're
Perfect.
good to go.
Okay. Standing by.
Okay.
You have great radio voice.
I've
Yeah,
just
he does, doesn't he?
Yeah.
worked the
Totally.
Rincon for over 6 years.
Well, he's
Perfect.
quite a well-known musician. So, accomplished, and he sings. So, maybe that helps. Maybe we should all, learn to sing. This is Rick Reeves, and he's on because he's one of the premier teachers with the Star Jasmine Foundation.
Oh,
And
fabulous.
they over the pandemic, I mean, there's been thousands and thousands of kids that they've been helping. They throw an instrument at a 6-year-old and say, go for it.
Yeah.
And
That's
it's fabulous. And that's their mission. And they've been growing over the pandemic because, music programs in schools, their
Yeah.
outreach is incredible. So I asked Rick if he'd talk a little bit about, he's one of the teachers there that have been there the longest.
Okay, back in 10 seconds. Stand by.
Okay.
Erica Salda. To make this your story, call Erica Salda at 805-679-3776 for a free consultation.
Three, two, one. You're live.
Welcome back. It's Elizabeth Stewart. Mark, that music sounds like we're about to take off and sail the ocean. I think, but at any rate, I have Monica Orozco and Susie Platt from the Mission Archive Library in the Old Mission, Santa Barbara. And Susie was telling us a little bit about the complexities of understanding the business model. But the long story short is, dear listener, the Mission Archive Library and Old Mission, Santa Barbara needs some help. There's a new capital campaign. They met their goal, the old capital campaign. They were a little over, but not by much. And so there's a new capital campaign that is specifically designed, really important to do HVAC. Not only is that important today for the archive, but it's important today for the friars. I mean, we just experienced this with our schools and our air purification systems going in full. I mean, this is a perfect time to safeguard the health of both our archives and our padres. So, this is a perfect time. And Susie was telling us one more time, Susie, will you tell us if folks want to donate and get this HVAC system built? We need to do that, folks. But so Susie, tell us how to do that.
Yeah, of course. Please visit our website at www.santabarbaramission.org. There is a drop down that has information about our Restore and Renew campaign, and that's our current capital campaign happening, as well as buttons for donate that have different drop downs for different funds that you can support, as well as links to our Santa Barbara Mission Archive Library and the parish. So all the information's on the website.
Okay, and very quickly, Monica, if folks want to see the archive.
Yeah. They can email me at director@santabarbamission.org. sbmal.org, and we can set something up. So that's the quickest way to do it, or call the mission and ask for me.
Ask for
804
Monica.
Yeah.
You know, you're doing yourself a big favor. If you need an uplift, this is the perfect thing, especially if you're a history buff or an old rare book buff or an art buff or a photographic buff. This is just what you need to do to treat yourself. Anyway, Monica, Susie, thank you so much. And Monica, you know, I always love seeing you. And so
Well,
we're gonna
it's
have
always a pleasure. Always a
we're-
pleasure.
I want to cover the gala in October.
Please.
So yeah, so let's do something September. And we'll do, you know, a little bit of a promo about what the gala is going to be and how we're going to do that and that sort of thing. So you
Yeah.
know, start emailing me in
Fabulous.
August and we'll get that done. Susie, and welcome 3 years into Santa Barbara, and boy, we sure got a gem in you. When we get back from this, we're going to take Mark, we're going to take a quick early break right now. And when we get back from the break, I want to introduce Rick Reeves. And you're going to hear from one of the premier musicians in our community. And the reason I asked Rick to come on is I spoke a couple of weeks ago with Nancy Earl, the founder of Star Jasmine Foundation. And what's so interesting is her program called Jams. And thousands of our local kids have been exposed to music and educated through this program. Rick is one of the longest running teachers there. Not only that, he is a member of the world's oldest blues society and quite an accomplished studio musician, vocalist. He's a guitarist and vocalist. So we get back for a quick break. We're going to speak with Rick Reeves. And don't turn that down. Monica, Susie, thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Let's go to quick
All right,
break,
we're
Mark.
clear.
Okay. Rick?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, excellent. Bye, you two.
Bye.
And
Thank
Monica,
you.
yeah,
Bye.
keep me in touch.
Yes.
All right. Bye. Nice meeting you, Susie.
Take care.
Yeah, you too. Thank you.
Okay, so Rick, Mark will give us a cue and then we're on.
You got it.
Okay. He's not as distracted. I'll say that. You got what you need? Take some money. Yeah. Get a little extra. We've got nothing in there. You did? What color is it?
Okay, we're back in about 10 seconds. Stand by.
Standing by.
The best way to know an amazing shelter pet like Satchmo is
On
to
the way
meet
to the
one.
lake.
Visit theshelterpetproject.org today. Adopt. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
3, 2, 1, you're live.
Welcome back. It's Elizabeth Stewart. I'm joined by bluesman Rick Reeves. And Rick, we have something in common. So I was born on the south side of St. Louis.
Wow.
Yeah, and you're from East St. Louis.
Yes.
So East St. Louis, is that Kansas side or Missouri side?
It's on just across the Mississippi and Illinois.
It's Illinois side. That, of course. Okay. So yeah, so where my dad lives, well, my dad passed away from the COVID thing, but where he used to live, we could see East St. Louis from the side because he was right on the side of the the river there so we could see where you came from. And that's a very famous area for the blues, of course. But Rick is a touring veteran here and abroad, and he's opened over 500 concerts in the greater Southern California area since 1984. So he's performed in concerts, Muddy Waters, All Three Kings, BB, Freddie, and Albert Collins. And like I mentioned, he's a member of the world's oldest blues society in Santa Barbara here. He's had 400 studio recording sessions, and he's the go-to guitarist for Ginger Baker, Steve Winwood, and Seymour Duncan. He's an accomplished guitarist and vocalist. And it says he can read the room, and from his vast repertoire has the perfect song at the ready. And not only that, he's a teacher, recommended as her favorite teacher, Nancy Earl from Star Jasmine Foundation, who we interviewed not too long ago. I was blown away by what JAMS does. JAMS is the offshoot program of Star Jasmine that educates young musicians, not even musicians, young people, to understand music. And Rick is here to talk a little bit about his teaching experience with JAMS. And I guess, Rick, what I want to start with is, can you talk about a notable student and how you've changed that student?
Well, I could tell you about 10 or 15, but I'll bring up one. How about that? There's a kid in Carpinteria named Connor Weinstein, who just blossomed into the most awesome musician. There's another one that lives in Canada. His name is Danny DiMaria. I taught him and his two brothers, and you get to know their family. I had Connor for over 7 years, had Danny for about 6 years. And, I don't know, they're squared away people, because you hang around them and they get a chance to see how you need to do things if you're going to do anything professionally, and apply your skill and practice and do all the good guy stuff that it takes to get somewhere and have that phone ring. So.
Well, I'm intrigued. So the Danny is not from our area. So how is he a student?
Oh, he
here?
grew up in Santa Barbara and all that kind of stuff. I taught him here. Yeah, they moved away. I got, a bunch of kids I could tell you about. There's one named Cole Smith. Cole's a great little guy. He's like Eric Clapton Jr., that little kid. And it's funny, I say that because I had him when he was a kid, and now I think he just graduated UCLA.
In music?
I don't think it was in music. I just saw his mom the other day. We're still friends with the family. And so it was kind of fun. But I'm not sure what subject it was, because we always just end up talking about music right off the bat.
You're right. Tell some more students. How about some females?
There's quite a few. I tell you what, there's one I didn't teach. I always kind of wanted to in Carpinteria. Connie Geston is just such a little sweetheart, and she's a great little singer-songwriter, excellent guitar player. There's most of the gals I could brag about is kind of like Nancy herself that you had in there. I've been lucky enough to show Nancy and her friend. We have a mutual friend, Elizabeth, and her husband Dion. They're awesome people. And Bob and Sue that used to live in Carpinteria and now live in Ventura. But I've had a chance to show a lot of the ladies just stuff on the guitar. They want to learn how to play this little thing, that little thing. And the next thing you know, they're off practicing. So my mission's accomplished.
So what age range are you teaching?
I prefer anybody who's about, 8.5, 9 years old on up. I don't care how old after that. And, it's funny. When you asked me that, I realize now I consider myself more of a musical coach, not necessarily a teacher per se, even though we're going to do some teaching along the way. But it's more of a coach. Everybody's got their good points, and I try to ride those and try to make sure the good habits are developed, and just to where it's fun without a lot of skullduggery. So
when you talk about an 8.5-year-old, their hands are not as developed. So how do you?
Yeah, neither were mine. I knew a guy named Andy when I lived in Arizona. I was in the military. I was stationed in Arizona. And there's this guy named Andy who's like 4'8", had the smallest hands I've ever seen, who could play so amazing on guitar. And I just realized, okay, all right, let's just get after it, because I got these big clunky hands. So an opposite. But the ladies, you can play smaller scale guitars, you can play ukulele. There's different tunings and all kinds of stuff. There's way where there's a will, there's a way. And boy, well, have I got a bunch of ways to point out.
So here's a question for you. So, I come from a applied art background. And so I asked a dear teacher friend of mine who taught art for 40 some odd years, how do you recognize talent? And, he had a really interesting thing to say. He said, it's not always in the work, it's sometimes in the discipline, but there's something intangible. So how do you, as a
Yes.
teacher, how do you recognize talent? How do you know, that 9-year-old has whatever it takes?
Well, you're not really going to know right off the bat unless in just a few cases here and there. But, I would liken it to that NFL quarterback, Tom Brady. I mean, he was selected in the 12th round and he blossomed over so many years. Now he's got 9 rings. But same with kids. You don't know what they're going to turn into, but the ones that are practicing and the ones that are really after it, and like anything else, when you ask questions, you ask me the same question 50 times, I'm going to cheerfully answer every time. It's about being patient. And when the right questions are asked and the right study acumen is happening, then you're going to succeed. So you can kind of spot those right away. And those are the ones you try to keep your eye on. You want to kick others in the butt. Other times you need to put your arm around a kid and say, hey, here's how you do it, son. And so everybody's got a little different coaching. But
Okay, so how do you fall down on the I'll give you an example. So the drive and the dedication versus the innate talent. So I give you an example.
Well,
So growing up, I had 2 brothers.
mhm.
One brother was musically gifted. He had perfect pitch. He could play the piano. He could, at the age of 5, he could pick up a guitar. He could pick up a violin. He could understand music. He was also quite a good mathematician, by the way, but he could understand music and he could play almost any instrument you threw at him. Within a couple of months, he could understand the instrument and he could do something with it. The other brother had no musical natural talent, but he worked really hard at an instrument. And he actually became better on that instrument, that one instrument, than my brother at the 16 instruments that he could play.
Well,
So where do you come down on the natural gift that you're born with, if it's musical?
okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's such a great question because you just described myself and my younger brother. My younger brother could read music I'd say like fence posts going by at 90 miles an hour. He was, play a million different instruments. When he went into the Army, his MOS, his job was bass guitar. I had a slightly different MOS when I was in. But anyway, to make a long story short, I wasn't in the Army. But to make a long story short, I'm the guy who really didn't catch on so quick, but I practiced and I'm dedicated and I'm steadfast and things seem to work out okay for me. So I'm the second person. I'm that other kid. But when you see kids, there's a double-edged sword there. There's some kids who will pursue that and they'll stay in music, but sometimes if things come too easy, they get a little flighty, I've seen. And
Yeah.
They'll just jump to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And they'll probably, whatever they land on, they're going to be great at. And, you kind of hope it's music, but that's just a slightly biased opinion, I suppose.
So Mark is giving us a quick signal. We got to go to quick break. But my next question, maybe you can think about it during the break, is when you've got a child that you feel has great promise, but they don't have the discipline, how do you teach that discipline? So why I'm asking that question is my mom, well, she's 93, but her whole career she was a piano teacher and she was also a performer and a conductor. And I grew up with people, young students, coming into our house, our little house in Deerfield, Illinois. She'd be teaching them piano. And she would have different ways of like you say, Rick, coaching. She'd have different ways of coaching different types of kids. But in some cases, she would say, to the parents, it's sort of, I'm fighting a losing battle here.
Yes.
she'd give an ultimatum. So I'm interested to know what you think about that. How does that work in teaching music? We'll go to quick break and then tell us about this when you get back from the break. Don't turn that down. Rick Reeves is star musician, a bluesman, a vocalist, a studio guitarist for Ginger Baker, Steve Winwood, Seymour Duncan, and he is a teacher at JAMS, which is an outreach program of the Star Jasmine Foundation. Is with us to tell us a little bit about his teaching experience at JAMS and how many students he's taught over the years is another question when we get back from the break. Don't turn that down. Back in a minute.
All right, we're clear.
So Rick,
Yes, ma'am.
okay, how many students have you taught? Do you know?
Oh, that'd be a tough number because I've taught from the late 70s through about 3 or 4 years ago.
Okay.
It really would be thousands. I got one thing for you though. The Santa Barbara Blues Society is actually the second oldest. It's the oldest one here in the United States. But believe it or not, Norway had one first. Of all the places, yeah. And they like the blues in Europe, let me tell you.
They like the blues in Norway?
Yeah, sure, you betcha. You sing them Muddy Waters, they're happy. And so am I.
That's amazing. Yeah. And have you performed in Europe?
Oh yeah. We've toured. I was signed up and doing shows, and it was a lot of fun there for a while.
What was your most ebullient audience?
I'll just tell you right now, it was a place in Bern, Switzerland, a place called the
Back in 10, stand by.
Euphoric radio show. Conversations that count. Tell me your story.
KZSB AM 1290.
Here we go. 3, 2, 1. You're live.
Welcome back. It's Elizabeth Stewart. I have the great pleasure of speaking with Rick Reeves. And when we went to quick break, he said something super interesting. I was a member of the Oldest Blues Society in Santa Barbara, or Oldest Blues Society is in Santa Barbara, but it's not the oldest blues society in the world. The oldest blues society in the world is in Norway. And Rick was doing a take on the Norwegian accent, and we like the Muddy Waters in Norway. Anyway, Rick was telling us that he's actually performed in Europe, and one of his most ebullient audiences was in Bern, Switzerland.
Yeah, it was a place, Bern, Bern.
Yeah.
And it was right on the Danube River. And if anybody's ever been to Bern, Switzerland, it's so beautiful. It's, it's another place with red tile roofs all over the place. But big old concert hall, and we just realized, we all looked at each other in the band before we went on and realized, hey, we've graduated from Vinny's Knuckle Room, from the, a downtown neighborhood bar, where your name is opening act, or cocktails Friday night, whatever it is. So we realized we've come a long way. And I was running upstairs after I had to retrieve my slide out of the truck. I had forgotten it, and the elevator was packed. The line of the elevator was packed. So I took the stairs. Had I taken the elevator, I'd have never seen the poster. And it showed us on the poster, and we were in the middle of the poster. It was like a month's worth of people. The very first band was the Rolling Stones and other American acts, Pat Travers and Walter Trout and some other people. So it was Chumbawamba was on that bill. So it was we realized we're getting somewhere. It was a lot of fun. So, but that was an excellent gig.
So back to my question, I mean, I
Yes.
just I had to ask about that, but my original question. So when you are faced with a student that is not motivated and doesn't have a lot of talent, what happens?
Well, those are the ones I try to really take under my wing because it depends on their their desire level. Let's put it that way. And I will just keep working. And there's simple things you can do that you just can't make them. It's just some simple strumming, whatever it is. And then maybe they got a timing problem, or maybe there's, left hand isn't doing what you want it to do. You just kind of break it down as patient as possible. And after a while, I think everybody knows at the same time. So if it's going to work or not. And a lot of times it's just a little extra coaching and bada bing, they're on their way. Not everybody goes 90 miles an hour. So.
Right. So and then the other comment that I have is now the student that you coached that just graduated UCLA, and we're not sure what his discipline was that he
Smith,
graduated with, but does music help in other disciplines?
Oh yeah. You understand what it's like. This day, I don't know how they say it these days, but you get a trophy for showing up, and music will actually help you kind of be one of the upper percent that might deserve a trophy actually. It just helps you in so many ways. Your timing, your ear. You talked a while ago when you were making the comparison between family members. I've developed a pretty doggone close to perfect pitch. My brother had it. So you can really teach yourself a lot of stuff. I'll hear a song in the background at work and I know what key it's in. I can hear the chords happen. I couldn't do that 30, 40 years ago. Now I can. You just stick with it long enough. And then when the kids that aren't, I don't know, they're either trying, they can't do it, or maybe aren't so motivated, they see that and it inspires them, a lot of them. So they might go further than they may not have, or I don't know. Am I saying that correctly?
Yeah. And one, final question is the JAMS program. I mean, tell us a little bit about your participation.
Well, I tell you what, let me tell you about JAMS. When you first walk in, it just looks beautiful. There's drums, there's guitars, there's piano. It's just like, oh my gosh, it's like heaven for me. I've done both classes there, and I've had some pretty entertaining jam sessions there with people you've heard of. And we've had some great times at jams. And then I've had some individual instruction as well. I've taught like that and had students every hour or something like that. So, but it's just a lot of fun. Anything you need musically, bam, it's right there at your fingertips. So a little recording studio in there.
Recording studio. Now, you mentioned that you've been teaching since the late 1970s.
Yep.
And I asked you, about how many students, specifically, how many students do you feel that you've taught at jams? I mean, thousands?
Oh, at jams? I'll say hundreds, maybe close to 1,000, but that's, I mean, when you stop and think, 20 or 30 at a whack over so many years, that adds up after a while, but it's not thousands, but it feels like thousands. I'll tell you what, there's been enough love to go out to thousands. That's for sure. I feel honored I get to do that. So.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Nancy's awesome to know and to be with and party with and just hang out with and play music with. And her and Jim, her guy, they're just great people. So
that's Nancy of Star Jasmine Foundation.
Yes, that's Nancy Earl. Yeah.
So Nancy Earl, and dear listener, if you feel like you'd like to contribute, this is a great opportunity. Jams needs some help right now.
We really do. I know this is a town famous for its nonprofits. We're just trying to plug away too. And as you mentioned a minute ago, kids need instruments and stuff needs to happen. There's, so much we can do personally. There's times where I may have purchased a guitar or given someone an amplifier type of thing. You just can't do that all the time. But yeah, we could use a little hand here and there. That's for sure.
Well, Rick, thank you so much. And dear listener, look into Star Jasmine Foundation and Jam specifically. Rick, thank you so much.
11 o'clock.
Hi, this is Lisa Cullen.
And I'm Chris Cullen. Our program is
Rick,
called